This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. This is the English soundtrack from the Guiana Space Center in Kourou.
Good evening and welcome to the Guiana Space Center, the CSG, at Kourou for the very first launch of the year, 2020, with VA251. I'm here from the observation platform at Jupiter Mission Control. This is the CSG's nerve center at the spaceport. The launcher is barely a dozen kilometers away from where I'm standing on its launch pad. It's waiting to launch with its 2 passengers. This takeoff will take place in less than 15 minutes this evening. It's going to be a relatively short mission this evening, a little more than 30 minutes, with a very comfortable launch window. Let's zoom in on our 2 satellites. They're packed neatly under the fairing. Their environment and temperature are both stable. These are communication satellites, EUTELSAT KONNECT and GSAT-30 for the Indian Space Agency. And the originality of this launch is that EUTELSAT KONNECT is the firstborn in a new generation of satellites operating on an all-electric platform. And to tell us more about this mission, my colleague, Katie Haswell, is at the heart of the action at Jupiter Mission Control. Katie, over to you.
Thanks very much indeed, Lisa. Yes, indeed, at the heart of the action here inside the Mission Control Center. We've got various different groups of people in here. We've got our live audience. A very big welcome to everybody for joining us here today to watch the show live. And of course, behind me, we have the operational teams. They're concentrating very hard at this point before launch inside what we call the fishbowl. We have a packed program for you today, and we're going to find out what's going to be happening in the next 40 minutes or so. Who better to tell us than the CEO of Arianespace, Stefan Israel, who's joining me now. Stefan, thanks very much indeed for coming out of the fishbowl to talk to us. It's the first launch of 2020, so we're getting off to a good start.
Yes, definitely. This is the first time we launch so early in the year. We start now the year of Ariane 5, 16th of January, so this is a good signal. This is also the 40th anniversary this year of Arianespace. It will be in March. And we are launching today for 2 very old friends and partners of Arianespace, EUTELSAT for Connect and GSAT-30 for ISRO, the Indian Space Agency. So all that goes in the right direction.
It certainly does. And can you just give us an idea of what we're going to see? Our mission's going to be about 38 minutes tonight, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. So 38 minutes. We are now very, very close to the opening of the launch window. We are going to lift off at 6:05. The weather is absolutely green, so it's perfect. We have a launch window of 1 hour and 55 minutes. And we will lift off towards the east. We will have the classical milestone of the launch. We will have the separation of the solid booster, the jettison of the fairing. We will have the separation of the first stage, ignition of the second stage. After 27 minutes, we will separate Connect, and after 38 minutes, we will separate GSAT-30.
Great. Stefan, thank you very much indeed for coming to the floor. And you can take your position back there behind the fishbowl. Stefan Israel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Stefan's going to head back now to his position. We call this the fishbowl because it's kind of self-explanatory. It's a big piece of glass, protective glass. It's very thick. And if you actually knock on the window, nobody can hear you inside. And all the teams behind me now concentrating, as I said, as we get closer. We are 10 minutes and 24 seconds to launch. Stefan was talking about the launch window there. We have a comfortable launch window, as Lisa pointed out. We've actually got 2 small launch windows. One is just over 2 minutes, just under 3 minutes, and the other one is about 1 hour and 15 seconds. Now, as I was mentioning, the area behind me, the fishbowl, is made up of a number of different desks, and each one of those desks is dedicated to a different team of people. And right now, all of those people are looking at these screens here in the Mission Control Center. Now, the desk that Stefan is making his way back to through all the security is the Flight Directorate. Now, over to you, Lise.
Yes, we just heard a helicopter go by. In fact, the Jupiter Control Center where I am is not far from the spaceport's entrance that you can see behind me. The CSG extends over some 700 kilometers squared between the towns of Kourou and Saint-Marais. That's 7 times the size of central Paris. So 2020 is going to be an exciting year for Arianespace, with maiden flights of Vega C and Ariane 6, as well as up to 12 Ariane 5 Soyuz and Vega launches. Let's take the bigger picture now with these shots from our drone. Ariane 5 carries aloft very heavy payloads, and huge buildings are used to assemble it and to house the satellites it carries. Launch Center 3, almost bang up against the launcher at some 3 kilometers away. We have the team responsible for launch operations. Let's have a look at the various launch pads, starting with Ariane 5 launch area, followed by Vega's pad and the impressive launch area for Soyuz. Here we see the mammoth work site of the Ariane 6 launch area. Ariane 6's maiden voyage will be sometime in the second half of 2020. Let's get back to Jupiter Mission Control, and I'll hand over to Katie.
Yeah, thanks indeed, Lisa. Lots of exciting things to look forward to there in 2020. Continuing our walk around the Mission Control Center, another set of people we're looking at here. This is the program directors. They are in charge of the contract for Arianespace. And, of course, all of these men and women, they know each other well. They've been working closely together with their customers for many years. Good teamwork. The final countdown started 11 hours ago, just over 11 hours ago, just before 7 o'clock this morning. And there's been a lot of operations going on during that time, things like filling the tanks, monitoring the electrical connections and that sort of thing. We're now waiting for the range operations manager to announce the last 7 minutes.
À tous de DDO. Attention pour la séquence finale lanceur. Top.
So the synchronized sequence has now started.
Maintenant dans la séquence dite synchronisée, c'est l'ultime étape de la préparation du lanceur.
The final stage in readying the launcher, Ariane 5 is gradually going to become autonomous. And to launch this synchronized sequence, all the boxes need to be ticked, just like you can see here on the green indicators panel. The satellites are ready to go. They arrived here a month and a half ago. Let's take a look at the highlights of the launch campaign.
The Launch Complex Operation Manager is in charge of all the operational activities performed here on the launcher and on the ground facilities. Once the 2 cryogenic stages are delivered, they come by boat from Les Bureaux and Bremen, the launch campaign may start. The 2 solid rocket boosters are produced here in French Guiana and are transferred vertically in the launcher integration building in the first day of the launch campaign. This one began mid-November. After the launcher stages were assembled on the table, followed by a checkout of the fluid circuits as well as electrical system checks, the launcher was transferred in December to the final assembly building.
I'm the Arianespace mission director of this VA251 flight. I'm in charge of the organization and management of the launch campaign for our 2 co-passengers, from their arrival in French Guiana until the launch and injection in orbit. The launch campaign started on the 28th of November with the arrival of EUTELSAT KONNECT at Cayenne Airport. After its transfer to S5C preparation payload facilities, standalone activities were performed until the 12th of December day of its transfer to the hazardous payload facilities S5B to perform fueling operation. The combined operation with the launcher has started for EUTELSAT KONNECT on the 16th of December with its flight mating on the payload adapter. It was transferred to the final assembly building on the 17th, hoisted onto the cylinder on the 18th, and encapsulated under the fairing on the 19th of December. The arrival of the lower payload, GSAT-30, at Félix Éboué Airport was on the 2nd of December. It was transferred to the S5C preparation payload facilities the same day, and mechanical and electrical checks started right after with the mechanical feed check on the 4th of December. GSAT-30 was transferred to the fueling facilities on the 13th of December. The combined operation with launcher have started on the 19th of December with its flight mating on the payload adapter. After the Christmas break, we restart the combined operation on the 6th of January with the transfer of GSAT-30 to the launcher's final assembly building. The following day, it was hoisted onto the launcher and encapsulated under cylinder and fairing on the 8th of January. The general dress rehearsal for the range and both spacecrafts was performed last Friday, the 10th of January, with all tracking stations involved in the final chronology and the flight.
Approximately 2,000 operations are performed during an Ariane 5 6-week launch campaign. One of the key responsibilities is to guarantee that every operation is carried out correctly and at the highest level of quality. People involved in the launch team are from Arianespace and Ariane Group, with full support from our ground segment industrial partners, working together with the two pilot customers to deliver a fully tested launch system that is ready for liftoff.
We are 3 minutes and 14 seconds to launch. EUTELSAT KONNECT and GSAT-30 waiting patiently inside the top of the launch vehicle, the Ariane 5 launcher there on the pad. The synchronized sequence is progressing. The computers on the ground are running the operations, and the teams here in the Launch Control Center are watching over all of those operations. They're in a concrete blockhouse close to the pad, about 3 kilometers. There are about 100 people working in here, and they deal with all the systems concerning the launch vehicle and the launch zone. And they started their preparations months ago. Right now, their job is to make sure that Ariane is ready for takeoff, and they are monitoring events during the synchronized sequence while the computers are running all the final controls. The computers run 1,500 operations during these last 7 minutes, so it's very, very impressive. Look at those arms 3/4 of the way up, the yellow, orangey coloured arms clamping onto the vehicle. That's a close-up of them clamping on. They're feeding cryogenic propellant into the upper stage of the vehicle. Liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. And to store both hydrogen and oxygen as a liquid, we have to keep them ridiculously cold. It's minus 253 for hydrogen and minus 182 for oxygen. And everyone's coming out now onto the terraces, all the guests that we saw earlier in the control centre, the mission control centre, going out to watch the launch with their own eyes. You actually get rather a good view from the terraces. We're about 10 kilometres or so, maybe a little bit more than that, from the launch pad. So they'll have a good view from out there. Coming up to the 1 minute mark.
De DDO, attention pour moins 1 minute. Top H0 moins 1 minute.
We are live at the Guiana Space Center for the launch of EUTELSAT KONNECT, built by Thales Alenia Space as part of the NEOSAT program of the European and French space agencies, and GSAT-30 for India, the Indian Space and Research Organization. Our very best wishes now to everybody and all the teams as we sit back now and watch the launch.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage du vulcain. Allumage EAP et décollage. Début de la manœuvre en roulis. Les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
And we are off. Ariane 5 is blazing a trail across the equatorial
La
skies.
propulsion est nominale.
And there we see her. She's come out from the other side of the clouds, powering her way into space, heading east, out over the Atlantic Ocean. We've broken the sound barrier, Mach 1. We're travelling faster than the speed of
La
sound.
trajectoire est nominale.
And we can just hear the sound of Ariane now coming to us here at the Jupiter Control Center overhead. Thundering overhead. Right now the boosters are doing all the work. They are providing 90% of our thrust. That's the equivalent of 12 jet engines.
La trajectoire est nominale.
Boosters are pushing us away from Earth's gravity, and we need a lot of firepower to do that. Each booster is burning 2 tons of propellant per second.
Les
That's
paramètres bord sont nominaux. Le pilotage est calme.
what an average car uses in a year. The range operations manager is telling us that everything's going normally, as expected. So, EUTELSAT KONNECT and GSAT-30 have started their journey. Bottom left-hand side of the screen, our altitude. We're presently 55 kilometres above the
La
Earth.
trajectoire est nominale.
Getting close now to the moment when we release the boosters, and we might even see that with the naked eye. Here we go.
Séparation des EAP.
That's what it looks like from space when we had cameras on a previous launch. And we can see the 2 boosters moving away. They have used their propellant, they've burnt it all up, and we don't need them anymore. They are falling back to Earth in a very specific pattern to ensure collision avoidance. So the dot in the middle is the Vulcan engine.
Les
That's
paramètres bord sont normaux. La trajectoire est nominale.
our launcher, and the 2 dots on either side are the boosters. That's the main stage engine powering its way away from us, powering its way into space. We've already lost 3/4 of our weight in just over 2 minutes, and that's, of
Séparation
course,
de la quoi.
the aim of the game. The lighter we are, the faster we go. And now we're getting confirmation from the range operations manager that we have separated the fairing. And look how those parts flex as they fall. It's called the breathing mode. And we can still see that dot, the engine of the main stage. And that's what it looks like up there. These are our
Début de
CGI
la manœuvre
images.
en roulis.
Our CGI images, which allow us to picture what it's like up there. The experts put very carefully planned parameters into the computer, and it generates these fantastic pictures. So everything we're looking at is what's planned
La propulsion est nominale. Le pilotage est calme.
for the flight. Some of the teams here in the Mission Control Center. On the bottom right-hand side, our speed is coming up to 3 kilometers per second. This is the new head of the CSG, Marianne Claire, the first woman to take
Les
the post.
paramètres bord sont nominaux.
And she's going to be overseeing the refurbishment of the Guiana Space Center. Last time it was refurbished was about 20 years ago in 2000, so that's going to be a very exciting project. Top right-hand side is our trajectory. It's the planned trajectory for the vehicle, and the white cross is our actual position of our launcher. We're looking at the main stage. At the bottom you can see the blue flame is the engine on the Vulcan the Vulcan engine on the main stage. That's what we could see burning when we saw it travelling away from us. This is now the tracking station. So we lifted off from French Guiana, and Galileo, in yellow, is the tracking station that's keeping its eye on us at the moment.
La trajectoire est nominale, il reste 3 minutes de propulsion EPC.
He's telling us we've got 3 minutes left of propulsion on the main stage. This was 5 minutes and 46 seconds ago. We lifted off from the pad here at the Guiana Space Center, bang on time, 6:05 in the evening. Always hugely impressive watching an Ariane 5 lift off. And now, over 6 minutes into the flight, our 2 satellites are heading out on their journey. We can see at the front there, Connect, EUTELSAT KONNECT. That's in the upper position. Did you see how the birds all flew away when we lifted off?
Les paramètres bord sont normaux.
I think I'd fly away as well.
Plus que 2 minutes de propulsion de l'EPC.
That close to the firepower. 2 minutes of propulsion left on the main stage, he's telling us. This is the Director of Space Transportation here from the European Space Agency here with us. It's an important launch for both the European Space Agency and the CNES, which is the French Space Agency, because obviously this is the first electric satellite that is being launched as part of their partnership with European industry. This is the tracking station, so our flight path takes us out across
de la télémesure lanceur par la station de Natal au Brésil.
East across the Atlantic, across Africa, and he's just confirmed to us that we've picked up the signal at the tracking station in Natal. That's in Brazil, so that's the next one along. You can see it there on the northeastern coast of Brazil. So as we fly into the range of a tracking station, it follows us, and the launcher sends signals back down to that tracking station, and the tracking station then sends that information back here to the Guiana Space Center, and it's called telemetry. And telemetry, of course,
calme, tous les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
He's telling us everything's normal and all the parameters are calm. Telemetry comes from the Greek. Tele, of course, means remote, as in television, and metron means measure. So we are measuring things from a distance. Funnily enough, one of the first data transmission circuits was developed in 1845. That was between the Russian Tsar's Winter Palace and Army
Extinction de
headquarters.
l'EPC sur commande de guidage. Séparation de l'EPC.
So he's confirmed we've switched off the engine.
Allumage de l'ESC.
On the main stage, we've ejected the main stage, jettisoned it, and we've now switched on the engine on the upper stage. So we're really beginning the next phase of the journey now. The upper stage has taken the wheel, and its engine's going to burn for about 16 minutes.
Paramètres bord sont nominaux, la propulsion est nominale.
Just a quick look on the right-hand side. You can see the EUTELSAT KONNECT is at the front, and the black structure is called a cylinder, and inside that is our Indian satellite, GSAT-30. The Indian teams we're seeing here from ISRO. GSAT-30 is a very important satellite for India, built by the Indian Space and Research Organization. Let's take a closer look.
Hello and welcome to the Guiana Space Center in Kourou. Please let me introduce GSAT-30. GSAT-30 is an operational communication satellite designed and manufactured by ISRO the Indian Space and Research Organization in order to provide communication services from geostationary orbit for a mission life greater than 15 years.
GSAT-30 is a high-power communication satellite built on ISRO's standard I3K platform, meant to provide the continuity of the services to our country in the KU and C-band. The satellite was realized at URO Satellite Center with the able guidance of Chairman ISRO, Director URSC, and the support from Team ISRO and the industry partners.
GSAT-30 will be the 24th ISRO satellite launched by Arianespace, following the launch of GSAT-31 less than 1 year ago, also on Ariane 5. Our cooperation with the Indian Space and Research Organization goes back to 1981, when Ariane Flight L03 launched the Apple spacecraft. It is always with great pleasure that we welcome at CSG our Indian friends. I wish all the best to GSAT-30 and the teams involved in the launch.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux, le pilotage est calme.
Everything's going normally, he's been telling us, and the piloting is calm. Here we can see the Indian teams in the Mission Control Center. And we're delivering GSAT-30 today. We delivered GSAT-31 for India last year in February the 6th. So that was nearly a year ago. That was the first satellite of 2019, so that's quite a coincidence. So let's turn our attention now to our other passenger, EUTELSAT KONNECT. It's a hugely advanced satellite on several counts. We've been hearing that it's fully electric, but it's also equipped to deliver high-speed broadband to parts of the world where a lot of people still don't have access to the internet. Here are the KONNECT teams. On its website, actually, EUTELSAT says broadband access is like oxygen. We need it to work, learn and play. And I have to tell you that I can vouch for that. The other day, my son's school had a bit of a broadband problem because it went down and they couldn't teach. So it just shows how reliant we all are these days on broadband. Well, let's go over now to the EUTELSAT KONNECT program directors to find out more about the satellite.
As the Arianespace Program Director for EUTELSAT KONNECT, I am in charge of the customer interface and launch mission preparation. I have today the pleasure to present the satellite to be launched in the upper position of this flight. Just over 2 years ago, EUTELSAT selected an Ariane 5 for the launch of its new generation high-throughput satellite manufactured by Thales Arianespace. EUTELSAT KONNECT will be the 34th satellite launched for EUTELSAT by Arianespace. Let me now introduce to you the EUTELSAT KONNECT Program Manager, Mr. Peter Noel. Good afternoon, Peter.
Good afternoon, Marie-Laure.
Peter, could you explain what is the main mission for EUTELSAT KONNECT?
Yes, EUTELSAT KONNECT is a high-throughput, highly flexible satellite operating in Ka-band, which offers a total forward and return capacity of 75 gigabits per second. Thanks to its 92 user beams from the 4 deployable antennas, the satellite provides coverage to 15 countries in Europe and 45 countries in Africa. In bringing broadband internet to Africa and Europe with state-of-the-art satellite telecommunication technology, EUTELSAT KONNECT will make a major contribution in bridging the digital divide. Initially, EUTELSAT KONNECT will operate over Europe and Africa combined, but thanks to the high flexibility that I mentioned, it will be possible in the future to reallocate all of the satellite capacity towards the African market.
Peter, what are the main features of the satellite and the challenges faced during the program?
EUTELSAT KONNECT is the first satellite to use a Spaceplus new electric propulsion platform from Thales Arianespace. Satellites using electric propulsion provide effective solutions for satellite operators, allowing to maximise the payload capability of the satellite, whilst maintaining a low overall spacecraft mass. As a first of its kind, there have been many challenges during the development, qualification, manufacturing and test phases, but thanks to the skill and expertise of the Thales, EUTELSAT and ESA KONNECT teams, the satellite has been brought from conception to today's launch in just 4 years, which is a great achievement.
Thank you, Peter. We now wish you a very successful start of satellite operations and we look forward for our next launch with EUTELSAT this year.
Thank you, Marie-Laure. All that remains for me to say is go Ariane, go Thales, go EUTELSAT KONNECT.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux, la propulsion est nominale.
Everything's going normally, and during that film we picked up the signal at the tracking station in Ascension, which is a tiny volcanic island in the South Atlantic. It's halfway between South America and Africa, and NASA had a station there till 1989, I believe. You can see up there on the top right-hand side, we are using all our power previously to get away from Earth, and we climbed steeply into space. We've plateaued out a bit now, and we are picking up speed in order to climb higher and higher into space later in the flight. And you can see our tracking stations there. So we've gone out of the range of Natal and into the range of Ascension Island. EUTELSAT is one of the world's leading operators, and Connect is going to have an important job to do.
La propulsion est nominale. Et le
So
pilotage est calme.
Everything's nominal. We've been hearing that EUTELSAT KONNECT is Europe's first all-electric satellite under the Spacebus Neo partnership. And electric propulsion is increasingly popular these days. It allows manufacturers to actually make lighter satellites, and that in turn can then reduce the cost. There's some thumbs up back there. That can reduce the cost of the launch. And Thales Arianespace developed Spacebus Neo with the support
Acquisition de la télémesure lanceur par la station de Libreville au Gabon.
Of the European Space Agency. And there we have the folk from the European Space Agency. We had the Director General back there and the Director of Telecommunications here, Magali Vestiaire. So we picked up the signal at the tracking station in Libreville in Gabon. So the aim of the game has been to help European industries maintain their competitive edge in the world's commercial telecommunications market. So we're going to go over to the Director General now of the European Space Agency to hear a little bit more about that program.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here together today to witness a very important launch, for ESA. It's the satellite Connect. And we are here to witness this together with our partners CNES, EUTELSAT and Thales Arianespace. What is Connect? Connect is one of the family of NeoSat satellites, a public-private partnership program we started together with CNES in order to make the European satellite industry more competitive, especially the satellite industry concerning telecommunications. So we did in parallel a contract with Thales Arianespace and with Airbus, and developing what we call the NeoSat platform. And this platform is already sold 10 times, so it's a big success. And it's one of our methods to develop ESA for the future, where ESA is not just only an R&D agency, an agency of a traditional way, but also being a partner of industry to develop competitive missions. And we are also looking forward to be a customer and a broker for space. So therefore, this very important launch today is for us one step further in a new role of ESA for the coming years.
So NeoSat is a satellite platform. But what indeed is a platform, you might be asking? Well, you could think of it as the body of the satellite, with all the things that make satellites work, like the solar panels, the engines, the star tracker, so that the satellite knows where it's going, etc., and where it is. And the platform hosts the payload, that's the customer's services. So, for example, transponders which deliver television, or a payload offering high-speed broadband, as in this case. And then, of course, satellite buses do tend to, well, buses, platforms, we can call them both, do tend to come in a series rather than a one-off, and they can be tailored to
Il reste 4 minutes de propulsion de l'ESC.
He's telling us we've got 4 minutes left of propulsion on the upper stage. Yeah, they can be tailored to their owner's needs, a little bit like a car. When you buy a new car and you can choose different options, although obviously this is rather more sophisticated and complex. So Thales Arianespace has a series of satellite platforms called Spacebus, and their Spacebus Neo is the new kid on the block. It's a very important satellite for Thales Arianespace. Let's go over now to their CEO.
This is an important launch for us because it is a major step for our first all-electric satellite Spacebus Neo, which we built for EUTELSAT. Everyone at Thales Arianespace feels personally involved in today's mission. EUTELSAT is a forward-thinking company, and let me say how proud we are to partner with you once again on such an important satellite for your fleet. The new Connect satellite is a jewel of advanced space technology. It combines innovation with state-of-the-art technology to offer a fully modular platform with an intelligent payload for high-throughput and agile services in Ka-band. We developed it under the NeoSat partnership project conducted by the European Space Agency, ESA, and the French Space Agency, CNES. Connect is a pivotal part of EUTELSAT's strategy to sustain its growth centered around connectivity. And it will play a lead role in bridging the digital divide in Africa and in Europe. The next major step forward will come in 2022 with Connect VHTS, very high throughput satellite, which we are currently building at Thales Arianespace. I would like to warmly thank Rodolphe Velmer and the whole EUTELSAT team for their trust in Thales Arianespace and giving us the opportunity to provide this exceptional satellite. My warmest thanks to EUTELSAT, ESA, CNES, Arianespace, and our teams at Thales Arianespace for this tremendous achievement.
No, we were just picking up there that we've got the signal now in Malindi in Kenya, and you can see at the top, the right-hand side of our screen, we're really climbing into space now, and our altitude on the bottom left, 531 kilometres high. Now, interestingly, Thales Arianespace had to build a new container for the Connect satellites, and it's big. It's about 5.5 metres wide and over 4 metres high, and it's so big that when they transported it along the motorway going along the south of France, they actually had to adjust the size of the péage, the toll, had to widen it. They had to deepen the road to get it under bridges, and they had to modify some roundabouts. So thankfully the mayor of Cannes has been very understanding and helped them to ensure that they could transport their satellite. The propulsion is normal. So we're powering at the moment with the upper stage engine, but it's getting ready to switch it off. It'll send the cut-off command when it senses that the launcher is correctly orientated. It needs to be on track, on time, at the right altitude.
Extinction de l'ESC sur commande de guidage.
And going at the right speed, which is exactly what's happening now, because we've had the confirmation there from the Range Operations Manager that we are now able to switch the engine off, and that has
Début de
indeed
la
happened.
manœuvre d'orientation au profit de EUTELSAT KONNECT.
And we've started the first orientation. Now we have to put our satellite into a very precise and specific orbit. So we're in the what we call the ballistic phase. We're coasting without the engine. We're on orbit. We've got the correct altitude and speed. And we're getting ready now for the next phase of the journey, getting ready to separate our satellites. In the meantime, the guys and girls here on this mountain inside what we call the CVI building are taking all the information from those tracking stations, all the telemetry that's being sent from
de la manœuvre d'orientation.
Those tracking stations, and they make a quick selection to check how the flight is progressing in real time. And they tell the range operations manager when they have the confirmation of those events, so that he or she can then announce those to the rest of us across the range. And then later these teams will analyze the information to see how the vehicle performed, and they can use that vital information to make adjustments for future flights. So our upper satellite, EUTELSAT KONNECT, is due to separate in, just under a minute now. It's going through a very precise set of manoeuvres. Once we release it, it's going to travel to its final orbital slot in space, 36,000 kilometers above the Earth. We call that geostationary orbit. Lots of satellites there, telecommunications satellites delivering all kinds of important services to us. And right now, the upper stage is orientating itself.
Début de la mise en spin au profit d'EUTELSAT KONNECT.
So he's just announced the
Séparation du satellite EUTELSAT KONNECT.
He's just announced the separation of the EUTELSAT KONNECT satellite. And you have it there. So successful separation of our first passenger just off the east coast. Just off the east coast of Africa. So congratulations to the EUTELSAT teams, Thales Alenia Space, European Space Agency and French Space Agency Connect. But remember that we do still have our second satellite attached, and it's GSAT-30, and it's inside the fairing, the cylinder rather. The cylinder was that black structure you could see.
d'orientation au profit du CILDA.
We've started the orientation movement now, the orientation maneuver, which will allow us to separate the cylinder, which is a little bit like a fairing. It protects the satellite in the lower position, and it also provides the connection mechanism for the satellite in the upper position. And you can see how far we've come. We've travelled across the planet and higher into space. We're now over the Pacific Ocean off the east coast of Africa. That's what it looks like from up there. You can
Séparation du système de lancement double Ariane.
There what it looks like when the cylinder is separated. He's just announced it there that we have the separation.
Début de la manœuvre d'orientation au profit du satellite GSAT-30.
And we're starting the orientation maneuver now to position our next satellite in the correct orientation for its separation. And we can see GSAT-30 on the right-hand side of our screen. We can see it for the first time, kind of silvery gold colour. It's got its solar panels all folded up. The GSAT satellites are India's homegrown communications satellites. Therefore, digital
nominale de la manœuvre d'orientation au profit de GSAT-30.
Data and video broadcasting They were developed and manufactured by their very own ISRO, the Indian Space and Research Organization, who will also be operating them. So it's a very important satellite with a vital job to do.
Communication is an integral part of our day-to-day life, and many services like television broadcasting, banking, broadband connectivity and telephony are enabled through communication satellites stationed in the geostationary orbit far in space. In the past 3 decades, ISRO has launched and maintained a constellation of communication satellites essentially for domestic use. ISRO's GSAT series, with more than a dozen satellites in orbit, is dedicated to provide communication services all over the country.
GSAT-30 spacecraft is a high-power communication satellite. It will replace the aging INSAT-4A spacecraft. The satellite is based on ISRO's standard I3K satellite bus and will provide 12 normal C-band and 12 KU-band transponders.
The satellite has 3-axis stabilized, momentum-biased control system with a host of sensors, reaction wheels and thrusters.
GSAT-30 is an advanced communication satellite with a liftoff mass of 3,357 kilograms to provide valuable communication services to the country for more than 15 years. This satellite will generate around 6 kilowatts of power. A host of new and advanced technologies are used to realize this satellite.
The satellite has 2 large propellant tanks accommodated within its central structural cylinder. Liquid apogee motor, which is GSAT-30's main engine, is mounted on a separate deck which interfaces with the bottom ring of the cylinder. The power system of the satellite comprises of deployable double-sided solar arrays for generating electric power and a lithium-ion battery of 180 ampere-hour capacity.
GSAT-30 communication payload is equipped with 12 C-band transponders and 12 Ku-band transponders. C-band transponders are designed for two-way communication using VSAT terminals over a vast geographical region extending up to Australia in the east and Europe in the west.
GSAT-30 will provide continuity of direct-to-home TV services from this lot as well as digital satellite news gathering and very small aperture terminal services. Ku-band transponders will provide services over Indian mainland and islands.
The onboard Ku-band beacon transmitter will help Earth stations to point their antennas precisely towards the satellite. GSAT-30 will be the 24th Indian satellite launched by the Ariane launch vehicle of Arianespace. The Ariane 5V vehicle carrying GSAT-30 onboard Ariane 5 launch vehicle from the European spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana. First, the launcher will inject GSAT-30 into a 250 by 35,975 kilometer elliptical geosynchronous transfer orbit, commonly known as GTO. Subsequently, the satellite's orbit will be raised from the GTO to the final circular geostationary orbit, GSO, by controlled firing of its liquid apogee motor, LAM, in stages. The deployment of the solar panels and the antennas will commence as the satellite nears its geostationary orbital home.
The satellite employs high-power amplifiers and state-of-the-art antenna system to meet the requirements of multiple users.
With GSAT-30, ISRO is once again poised for yet another milestone event which will further strengthen our communications infrastructure and provide continuity of satellite communication services to the country well into 2030s.
So, India has a very ambitious space program. They're forging ahead with exciting projects. They've got lots going on. Things like, for example, navigation, Earth observation, broadcasting educational programs, exploring other planets. And I think I'm right in saying they have 3 launch vehicles. So very, very progressive and very exciting. And of course, in terms of telecoms, as we've heard there, India's got its fleet of the GSAT satellites. And right now, GSAT-30 is heading out on its way to join its brothers and sisters in space, on its way to its new home. And right now we're 36 minutes in, so a few more minutes before that happens. Our speed 7.71 kilometers. ISRO have packed their satellite with cutting-edge technology.
GSAT-30 was shipped to the launch base during early December, and the satellite preparation, integrated test, propellant loading, and the combined operations were carried out by our team and with a full-fledged support given by Ariane team. After the successful launch of Ariane VA251 and the injection of GSAT-30 in the intended orbit, the master control facility at Hassan will take over the control. Subsequently, orbit raising maneuvers, deployment and in-orbit tests will be carried out, and the satellite will be dedicated to the users.
And indeed, space is all about relationships and working together, and the delivery of GSAT-30 is a great example of that, because it's a strong bond uniting Europe and India in space cooperation. France and India have been working together in space for over 3 decades. Arianespace has orbited 23 satellites and signed 24 launch contracts with the Indian Space Agency. And the first one they launched was India's Apple experiment satellite. We heard about that earlier, and that was on Ariane flight L03. That was in 1981. About a minute now until the planned separation of our second passenger, ISRO's GSAT-30. Everyone concentrating hard. You can see it there on the left-hand side, and the upper stage twisting and turning there. These CGI images showing us what has been planned for this trip.
Séparation du satellite GSAT-30.
And we have separation of the GSAT-30 satellite. Great news. Ariane 5 has delivered her second passenger, GSAT-30, over the Indian Ocean. Over the Pacific. Oh, no, the Indian Ocean, my apologies. So congratulations to everyone at ISRO and across India. Best wishes as you now take charge of your spacecraft. So, a successful mission today. 2 new satellites are born. Happy faces all round. And proud smiles here at the Jupiter Mission Control Center. And people have worked really hard for months. And some of them for years to get these satellites into space. So today is a really big day. For some people, the work is done, but of course for others, the teams in the control centres, the work is just beginning. They're taking charge of their babies now and monitoring their first manoeuvres, and we wish them all the very best for their operations. EUTELSAT KONNECT is going to take about 6 months to get to its final orbital position. It has an electric engine, and that means it takes a little bit longer because the electrical engine takes longer to accelerate. But it has the advantage, as we were saying earlier, of enabling the manufacturer to make a lighter satellite and put more on the satellite. So here we go, everyone looking very happy. Waiting now for the traditional speeches. We like to have speeches at this point afterwards. The various heads of the organizations and teams involved in today's launch will come and join us on the floor here and have a chat. And we lifted off over 40 minutes ago. Those were the cryogenic arms moving away. In the last few seconds, the Vulcan engine switched on, the boosters ignited, and off we went.
So, ladies and gentlemen, dear customers, dear Isa DG Jan Werner, mesdames et messieurs les parlementaires français présents à ce lancement, distinguished guests. Arianespace is delighted to announce that EUTELSAT KONNECT and GSAT-30 have been injected as planned on the targeted geostationary transfer orbits. For the first Ariane 5 launch of the year, our heavyweight vehicle has once more performed flawlessly. Congratulations to all. Tonight, I want to deeply thank our partners and customers. I will start with EUTELSAT. Less than a month after Ariane's 40th birthday, we celebrate tonight our 34th successful mission together since ECS-1 which flew with the 6th launch of Ariane back in 1983. What a long way we've come together. Let me express my warmest thanks to Johan Leroy, Deputy CEO of EUTELSAT, who is with us tonight. Such a mission dedicated to bridging digital divide in bringing internet to European and African territories echoes very well with our motto in Arianespace. We want to put space at the service of a better life on Earth. Our journey with EUTELSAT does not stop tonight. We have 6 more satellites to deliver for EUTELSAT, and I should mention that EUTELSAT has been the first commercial customer to embark on Ariane 6. So we are looking forward for further successes with EUTELSAT. I know that Rodolphe Belmer, CEO of EUTELSAT, and all his team is gathered in his headquarters in Paris and is looking at this launch. I for sure want to congratulate Thales Alenia Space. EUTELSAT KONNECT marks the 163rd Thales Alenia Space satellite launched by Arianespace. We have with us Martin Van Schaick, Senior Vice President for Sales and Marketing in CSG, and I'm sure that Jean-Loïc Gall is not far from his screen as well. We have 5 more Thales Alenia Space satellites in our backlog. Mentioning Connect and Thales Alenia Space, I want also to mention the fact that this full electric satellite uses for the first time the Spacebus Neo platform. This platform is part of the NeoSat partnership project, which is under the leadership of ESA and CNES. We have with us tonight Jan Werner, so thank you very much, Jan, for being with us tonight and for this development. And I would like to say a special word for Magali Vessière, Director of Telecommunications and Application. I think I do not betray a secret by saying that in your function, this is the last launch you will attend. Okay. Bon. So Jan is saying a quite different message, but let's consider that it may be the last launch of Magali. If it is the case, Magali, it's really time to dedicate to you our warmest thanks for all you have done for the European satellite sector. Thank you very much, Magali. For sure, our other customer for this launch is India and its outstanding space agency, ISRO. I want one more time to say how grateful Arianespace is to ISRO. Last year, we started the Ariane year with ISRO. It was for GSAT-31. And this year, we also start the Ariane show with ISRO for GSAT-30. Doing so tonight, it is the 24th satellite we have orbited for ISRO. ISRO made the choice of Ariane in 1981. By the way, EUTELSAT is a bit late because they came 2 or 3 years after, but ISRO made this choice with the experimental satellite EPOL. So we have done a lot together. I would like to thank ISRO chairman, Mr. Sivan, and all the teams who are now gathered in Bangalore. We have the honor to have with us tonight Mr. Krishnan, director of the Satellite ISRO Center, and it's a great pleasure to have you with us tonight. Arianespace is looking for more opportunities with ISRO in full complementarity with Indian launchers, PSLV and GSLV. We are wishing you the best for the launches you are going to deliver with your launchers this year. As a conclusion, I shall mention that we start this year, the year which is a bit exceptional for Ariane. We are going to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Arianespace. It will be in March. And if everything goes as planned, we could have a number of launches record this year with 12 launches from the CSG and more from other space centers. I would like for sure to thank all our partners for this collective success. I will start with ESA and all the member states of the Ariane program, whose support is absolutely key for our activities. We have with us Diane Launchbender, who is the Director for Space Transportation, and we know what we owe to Daniel for our collective success. I would like as well to thank our prime and first shareholder, Ariane Group. We have today in Jupiter André Hubert-Roussel, CEO of Ariane Group. This success is a success of a collective team, which is for sure at the very end of the value chain Arianespace, but we know as well what we owe to Ariane Group and all our European industrial partners who are part of this success. I want to thank CNES, Ariane 5 Design Authority, and our daily partner here in CSG, Marianne Claire, Jean-Marc Castor, who were with us tonight. And thanks for sure to all our contractors here in French Guiana. Last but not least, I would like to pay my tribute to all my Arianespace colleagues for this new success. It was the best way to start this outstanding year by this new success. So now I would like to welcome on stage our customers and partners. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. As you may have noticed from Stéphane's speech, EUTELSAT and Arianespace are like an old couple. We've been working together since almost the very beginning, starting with the launch of EUTELSAT 1 F1 in 1983. This is tonight our 34th launch together in nearly as many years, and it is a pleasure to be able to celebrate yet another success. This success is, for Ariane, the first of a new decade that for sure will see a lot of new exciting developments for the space industry and probably as many new opportunities for EUTELSAT and Arianespace to work together. In fact, more than half of EUTELSAT satellites have been launched by Arianespace, and 6 more launches are already confirmed by EUTELSAT in Arianespace books for the coming years. We are also delighted to share this success with ESA, Yann, Magali, from our friends from the Indian Space Research Organization, and Thales Alenia Space, Martin, our long-standing partner. I am particularly proud of tonight's success. Firstly, this is a technical success. EUTELSAT KONNECT is a new generation high-throughput satellite, the first satellite to use Thales Arianespace's new full-electric Spacebus Neo platform. This platform has been developed and built in just 4 years. As KONNECT VHTS, which is being manufactured by Thales Arianespace as well, EUTELSAT KONNECT makes use of the latest telecom and space technologies, the technologies that will enable EUTELSAT to become a leader in the connectivity markets. This success is therefore, first of all, the success of TAS and EUTELSAT engineers. Secondly, I'm proud because beyond EUTELSAT, this is a success of a European dream team, made up of 3 European industry champions, Thales, Ariane, EUTELSAT, and supported by the European Space Agency and the CNES through their NeoSat program. This success is therefore also the success of the European industry. Last but not least, I am proud because with EUTELSAT KONNECT, we are pursuing a great mission. Being able to communicate and to access information is a fundamental right, and providing everybody on this planet with that right should be a priority. This new bird has been designed precisely to contribute to the combat against the digital divide, and is aimed at providing broadband internet to hundreds of thousands of people who are today out of reach of any terrestrial connectivity across 55 countries in Africa and Europe. As Adrien was saying to Marc Aurel, under Marguerite Yourcenar's pen, in French, construire, c'est collaborer avec la Terre. C'est mettre une marque humaine sur un paysage qui en sera modifié à jamais. C'est contribuer aussi à ce lent changement qui est la vie.
To a long change, the life of cities.
19 centuries after, this word resonates, and we can modestly consider we have laid the foundation stone in what aims to be a great construction. Tonight has been a great achievement for the EUTELSAT and TAS teams. It is just the end of the beginning. So after this first stone, what are the following ones for KONNECT? Our teams have already taken control of the satellite from Cannes, and over the next few hours, the bird will deploy its wings and start its journey towards geostationary orbit, which it will reach in the summer of this year. In parallel, our teams will continue to work with our partners, General Dynamics and News Network Systems, to finalize the ground infrastructure that will allow EUTELSAT KONNECT to go into full commercial service in the autumn. As a word of conclusion, I would like to congratulate again ESA, ISRO, Arianespace, and Thales Arianespace. I would like also to take this opportunity to thank those who are not under the spotlight, but who have made it a success. Marie-Laure Chauffour, Jean-Christophe Delaunay, Raphaël Breda, Pierre Destin, and their teams. And from your teams, Stéphane, Arianespace, and Ariane Group. Tony Guillaume and his teams from CNES. Stéphane Magnin, Nicolas Bracco, Philippe Perrin, Virginie Salvador, and all the TAS teams. You have all greatly contributed to the success of EUTELSAT KONNECT, and I thank you once again. I would like also to give a special word of thanks to Marc Etanasio. Marc, you have been a great KONNECT program manager. You told me that you've been working for TAS for 34 years, but we consider you as a member of the EUTELSAT family. Finally, my warmest greetings go out to all of my EUTELSAT colleagues across the globe who have tuned in to share this historic launch for our company. In particular, those who've been sweating on this program for 4 years, and those who, like Marc Aurèle, will continue the construction in the months, the years, and at least the 19 centuries to come. Remember, be passionate, and go connect. Thank you.
So there we are, we got it in space. The first space was NEO. Still a lot of work to do, but we're up there. Thanks a lot to Arianespace for this wonderful launch. Stéphane, noblesse oblige, as always. You know by now it's a very decisive moment for us in Thales Arianespace. We now have a very important satellite in space with our first electrical space platform. A platform that we worked on very, very hard and faced many challenges. And nothing goes automatic, especially with first ones like these. There are a lot of things to overcome. 15 nations funded the project, and 44 companies participated across Europe. And it all fits together at the end, which is kind of a miracle as well, if you say it like this. I'd like to thank everybody at EUTELSAT, and in particular Rodolphe Belmer, for placing the trust in such an important program, and Johan and his teams. He took my seat. And his teams for the excellent team spirit that we all experienced during the execution of this program. Also want to thank Jan Werner and the European Space Agency, Jean-Yves Le Gall of the French CNES, for conducting this development jointly. And their continuous support. Nothing happens without excellent teamwork. A big thanks to all the teams, and in particular to our men and women at Thales Arianespace, who have demonstrated their commitment, their enthusiasm, their persistence and professionalism. I have the deepest respect for what they've done. I'm, of course, very proud of this. And I know that half of the team are watching today. Guys, you made a beauty. Well done for all of you for this super achievement. Right now, the next step is to get the satellite in final orbit. As always, the work starts now. The teams have begun working on it. We've got telemetry in Cannes. They're only watching the screens now to make sure that everything goes right. And it's an outstanding project with remarkable people. And that's one of the greatest pleasures of being in this business, that it creates profound relationships that we build with our customers and our partners over the years. People united behind one single goal, and that is to make these type of projects a success. We wish EUTELSAT and its customers the very best for Connect, and of course the same for our co-passenger GSAT-30. I know the satellite is much awaited, so let's go on with it. Thank you very much.
Very good evening to all of you, and very early good morning to Chairman ISRO, Dr. K. Shivan, and all my ISRO colleagues watching from India. It's an excellent start of 2020 with an excellent launch, and ISRO has opened its mission calendar for the year 2020 with a successful launch of GSAT-30 by Ariane 5, the most reliable launcher. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Arianespace, CNES, and the European Space Agency for this wonderful work. I also take this opportunity to thank the whole ISRO community who have contributed tremendously for this realization of the GSAT-30. My hearty congratulations to my own chairman, respected Dr. K. Shivan, and thanks for his continuous encouragement for the realization of this satellite. An advanced communication satellite of 3.5-ton class within a very short time span of about less than 1 year after the launch of GSAT-31 from here last year. So let me take this opportunity to congratulate the whole ISRO team and particularly the GSAT-30 project team, the project director, Mr. Ramanathan, and the program director, Mr. Gupta, and many other project executives in the UR Satellite Center and many other satellite centers of ISRO. GSAT-30, all of us know that it's an advanced communication satellite with 24 transponders, 12 each for the service through Ku band and C band, and with a total mass of 3,357 kilogram. And it has got a service lifespan of about 15 years, expected lifespan of 15 years. And it will provide the continuity for the DTH service and many other space-based services, and many technologically new, innovative subsystems were incorporated in this. And after the deployment of 3 solar panels, the satellite will generate about 7 kilowatts of power, and put together is an excellent satellite that will provide continuity for the INSAT 4A. I once again take this opportunity to appreciate the project team and the whole spacecraft community of ISRO, with the UR Rao Satellite Center in the lead role, and the Space Applications Center Ahmedabad, and many other units and centers of ISRO who have actively contributed towards the realization of this satellite in a very short time. So before I conclude, let me take this opportunity to share our happiness to Arianespace. And just 2 minutes back, Chairman ISRO has contacted me, and he would like to convey his special regards and happiness to Arianespace for this wonderful job, very professional job, both the pre-flight as well as the flight. So we are very thankful to the Arianespace, CNES, and ESA. And this is the 24th launch of Indian satellites from Arianespace, way back from 1980s, and the cooperation is continuing well. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate our co-passenger from EUTELSAT. And I am sure that the Satellite Connect will definitely connect to all the user community, intended user community, in a seamless way. So, and incidentally, I am able to recall Arianespace started its innings, the launch innings, in 2019 also, with the launch of an Indian satellite, GSAT-31. And this year, 2020 for ISRO is very precious, and a good number of very challenging missions have already been announced by ISRO. And with this very good start, today's launch, I am sure that the year will be fruitful. And before I conclude, what I would like to wish my mission team, already lined up in the master control facility. They have already acquired the satellite, and I am sure that they will immediately complete the post-launch operations and make the satellite in its operational stream. GSAT-30 is going to be joined in the 18 satellite communication satellite stream of India, and I would like to once again congratulate and once again wish all the best for the whole team, the Arianespace, our co-passenger, and I take this opportunity once again to congratulate the ISRO team for the tremendous job done, and making a satellite in 1 year, such an advanced satellite in 1 year is something commendable job. So wish you all the best for the coming endeavors also. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, for me as the Director General of ESA, such a launch and this special launch is also a very special day for me. And I can tell you, there are some feelings, some happy feelings and some sorry feelings. You heard about that. Most probably, but only probably, we have to say goodbye to Magali Vézière, who was for years the Director for Telecommunications and Integrated Applications at ESA. But of course, I'm also happy that this launch worked, and that we are now having 2 satellites in orbit, one from India and one from Europe. And I can tell you I was starting my work as ESA DG in 2015. And it was in July 2015. And then Magali came to me and said, Jan, by the way, you have to sign something in September. I had no clue what to sign. And she told me it's very important. It's for European industry. This is, by the way, what she's always saying. All the work at ESA has to be for European industry. She is repeating this. Whatever we think about when we are talking about education, she is saying, yes, education for industry. When we are developing new technologies, she is saying, yes, it's for European industry. And therefore, also, when we went to the ministers in 2019, last year, in Seville, and asked for money for the future, he was saying, don't forget industry. So this is always what she is saying. And therefore, this very special method she is working with us is important, and she was very successful. And therefore, I would like to, this mission today, really put in her field. Of course, I congratulate Arianespace, Stefan. I congratulate EUTELSAT. I congratulate our Indian colleagues. I congratulate Ariane Group. I congratulate CNES. All of them fine. But for me, the very, very special thing goes to you, Magali. This contract in 2015 for something what she explained to me, NeoSat, Jan, this is a new method and we will do it in parallel with two industries. And I said, maybe it works. I have no idea. And it was really a public-private partnership at its best. And it was a public-private partnership for ESA at its best, because it was not only one company and ESA and CNES, but it was even 17 different nations which participated in that. And by that producing and developing a totally new platform of satellites called NeoSat. For us, for you, you have your own company name, and the other company, which exists as well, has their company name for a satellite name for them. But can you imagine 2015 signing a contract, and now we are in 2020, and 11 of these satellites are already sold. This is a tremendous success, and I can say, of course, it's a success of the companies, but first of all, it's a success of you, Magali, because you created this program and you made it really that it could happen. So congratulations also, of course, to our Indian colleagues, because I think it's very important that we are working together here, also launching, because space is a universal thing. And I can tell you, as the ESA Director General, 99% of my time I'm in discussing and contracting and trying to convince people. And I always, when I'm here in Kourou, I believe they should come here. Then all the contracts and all these discussions might be easier, because here really space becomes alive. When you see a launcher, and sometimes you see it for several seconds, not behind the clouds, but when it comes out of the cloud again, it's really, for me at least, it's a very special moment. Therefore, I congratulate all the ones who made it possible. I'm just happy, and I wish very big success, not only for these two satellites, but also for the future. And we will see more launches this year, hopefully. Also very special launches with return to flight with Vega C, Ariane 6, and for the future also, as Daniel was correctly saying, the reusable spacecraft, Space Rider. This is not this year, but we are working on it. Thank you very much to all of you for coming, witnessing, and congratulations to all of them who made it possible. Thank you.
Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not too late for I suggest that I round off in French. Listening to what Jan was saying, I was thinking about a TV show that we watched before Netflix. It was a $6 million man, and Jan is worth 10 times that. Since you know that, so well done to ESA, Jan, and all the member states for their fabulous ministerial success. Now, it's been said that we're going to be conducting many launches in 2020. We started very early on in January. In February, we won't need the 29 days in February for a leap year to do 2 launches. And things are going to be shifting, because the first of the launch will be for OneWeb from Baikonur, in February, in the first days of February, and the second will be once again here in Guyana from the CSG. It will be a launch for an Asian operator, two faithful Arianespace partners, a Japanese operator with GSAT-30 and Kourou, which is the Korean space agency for the another GSAT-2B. So lots of work in the offing after a fabulous January and a wonderful February in the offing. Thanks very much.
So mission accomplished once again for Arianespace. Huge congratulations to everybody involved in today's launch, to ISRO and everybody in India, to everybody on the Connect program, EUTELSAT, Arianespace, ESA, and the French Space Agency. What a great way to start 2020. A job well done. Great.
Absolutely, and a big thank you to Arianespace, of course, and to all the teams here in Kourou at the CSG who have made it possible to bring you this live transmission. So a huge thank you to our director and to the team who enabled us to bring you this. We really hope you enjoyed it.
So we're going to be back in February, as you heard there from Stefan. We've got 2 launches in February, and I really hope that you'll join us for those.
So we're going to leave you with some pictures, a replay of tonight's launch. From me, Lisa Peterson.
And from me, Katie Haswell.
That's
Bye-bye.
goodbye.
Where's our drone?
Oh, there it is.